It's 17 hours. interesting stream tonight because of quite a few different things, as you'll see. But just hold tight 1 second while I connect one more wire. And there I am in all my beauty. Let me turn my light down a little bit. So, somebody just put in chat that they can hear me once the graphic changes to my lovely face. All right. So, welcome everybody to the Digi-Natural-Nomad weekly live at 5 freezing cold Wisconsin special. I am your host, Mr. T3. And it has been a wonderful week for so many reasons. Every moment that I'm here, I feel I'm evolving into what the last 5 years has tried to hold me back from evolving into. And it's so funny because before I was thinking, first you went through all these tests about, everything from business knowledge to trust issues with people to being taken advantage of by photography clients and other people, and so you learn to deal with that stuff and learn how to communicate a little more clearly, work through those issues. Then once I finally free myself from Portland, I then the universe says, oh wait, we're going to do one more thing. We are going to test you physically now by using weather extremes. So as I've said many times, my first stream in Montana, I couldn't even do because it was 122 degrees, and it was my computer just had like oven and a little hot sign. And then long story short, I ended up here in Wisconsin, and it was, just at 3/4 past fall, and all of a sudden it went from like 40s to single digits, maybe teens during the day, and negatives at night. And the last 3 nights have been the coldest nights, since I've lived here. So 2 nights ago, I'm sitting here at 1:30 a.m. diligently tapping away, and the power just goes out completely. And already in here now I have a Vornado heater over there. I've got one there. So right at my desk, it's 58 degrees. At the time, I think it was like 46 at my desk. So real quickly, I know that all the power coming to the trailer goes to the green machine shop right there. So I throw on everything, go outside, mess with the circuit breaker, can't figure it out, and I'm just like, you know what, I'll deal with it. I have enough stuff to sleep with. It's no big deal. What really blew my mind though is I was outside for maybe 20 minutes, give or take, and I came back in and I looked at that thermometer, and it had gone from 46 to 28. So 20 degrees, or like nearly 20 degrees gone, just because these slide outs, when you travel down the road, this is meant to come in, as well as I think a section over there. It might just be on this one side. But anytime you have something that slides out like that, there's just microscopic gaps, and I can feel the air blowing on me when I sit down here because, right, I add weight to it. So I'm actually going to I'm going to go to Goodwill and get a computer chair and sit there, and that will keep that from happening. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, even though at certain times, like this morning, when the circuit breaker in here for the outlets that are in here kept blowing, and I was just like, you know what, I can't deal with this today. I'm tired. I'm just gonna call off the live stream. And then my dad, as well as a few other members of my family, chosen and not, and real family from beyond, said, no, you don't, son. You suit up and you come through for the people that will be there wanting to hear you talk. And with that, I got my big boy pants on, came out, fixed the issue to keep the circuit breaker from blowing. And right now it's a balmy 58 degrees at my desk, which is beautiful. So I just love how I now have the ability to look back upon these last years, and even though I would not wish the things that happened to me upon anybody, they were just what I needed to become the person that I am today. That is, going to take my father's vision and my father's work into a new era for a new generation. Which brings me to an idea that I've thought about for years, but I never really did anything with it because I just never had time. So many, many, many years ago, when I was in Cincinnati, my friend's girlfriend one night says, you should do a kids show called T3 and the Dingo. And for those of you who've met my dog Cora, she was an Australian cattle dog, a blue heeler mixed with Kelpie, pointy ears, totally a dingo, and totally just the best dog. I got 18 wonderful years, sorry, I'm gonna cry, with her. And, my friend even offered to draw up storyboards and things like that. And I was like, there's no way, unless I pitch this to a bunch of different places, and then they're going to take creative control away from me. So I got to thinking today, after, so my new wonderful community, they have a 3-year-old son. And he really loves these 2 YouTube channels. I'm not going to mention their names, but they're 2 guys who are, they do things in a goofy kid show manner, but it's all about heavy equipment and tractors and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't enjoy teaching groups of kids so much, unless, of course, they're into what I'm teaching. But I bet you I could make some really funny, awesome kids nature videos. And as far as I know, and I've done, at times I've done a little research, and I don't think there's many out there. So my next question I'll be asking the interwebs once this is over is, should I just make a playlist on this channel and have it be there, or should I start a whole separate channel and start from scratch essentially? And so I think having it, something for kids would be amazing. And sorry about that weird little blank out. That happens when I use my iPhone as one of my webcams, which, by the way, I have to give so much gratitude to my new community here, because they knew how much I struggled with the fact that, here, let's use this camera for you for 1 second. So they knew that I, was struggling not having a Nikon camera to go with my lenses, because It's a huge part of my production value. It's that good quality, high quality, steady thing that's always there that you can sync sound off of. And it's like, I always jokingly said it's like having one arm and trying to build a house, doing what I'm doing with the video work. So, with that, last week, on Friday actually, I like to present to you. Oh, let's see if I get it. I'm using my iPhone now, but finally got a Nikon Z7 Mark II, which is a camera that I had right before I had the one my dad got me, that I ended up trading in on lenses for the new camera. And there's really not much difference, the only so yeah, luckily I only had to part with the camera body. I still have all the lenses and everything, all my other gear. Well, not all of it. Half of it is 12 hours away in Montana. So yeah, I'm going to be making a trip there to get the rest of my stuff to bring here, including my 15-foot cable for being able to connect to my computer to record and or live stream. And I just, I haven't taken outside to take photos yet because it's really bad to take, electronics from a super cold environment or a super warm environment, and swap them instantly. My usual MO is I have a camera bag or a dry bag that I keep outside my back door, and when I come in from shooting photos for the day on a colder day, I will actually put the camera in the cold bag and then bring that inside. That way it warms up a lot slower, and I have desiccant bags in there. So yeah, but like it gets, it's the type of weather where at night I walk outside and within moments, my mustache is frozen. And the other night, just walking maybe 200 yards back from my friend's cabin, I had like an inch-long snot sickle going on. So, oh my goodness. Yeah, normally today I had this whole thing planned where normally my stage is going to be over there on the kind of couch. But, having some power constraints and I figured I'd just do it this way because this one is going to be a little bit shorter. Because of all the stuff I'm going through. But a couple other announcements that I would like to make, and these will be up on my website soon, and I'll be releasing a blog post soon as well. But the first is April 10th through the 12th, that weekend in there. My friend Scott Martin and I are going to be running a class in Hot Springs, South Dakota. It's going to be a class that's skills, what to do, if you find yourself lost in the woods and a mountain lion has pissed on your matches and a tent has blown, and the wind has blown your tent away. What do you do to make fire and make yourself shelter? All that good stuff, shelter, water, fire, food. And then, of course, my latest passion, well, not latest, but something I've been working a lot with lately is the natural movement, and making it so that anytime you enter nature, without even thinking, your subconscious mind connects to that baseline, and it dictates all your movements for you. So you never have to worry about setting off those alarm calls. And this is one of the skills, one of the gifts that I was given after this multi-year trials and tribulations. All of a sudden, one day, shortly after arriving here, I walked outside, and I haven't looked at anything or anybody the same way since. It's like, I've been trying to think of analogies or, things that will help people better understand. So it's the, if you take your traditional, like my dad would draw up on the board about baseline. So let me use my little pad here and do a little drawing for you. Shout out to Remarkable. So Remarkable is an awesome product. I'm not sponsored by them, but it's basically like an Amazon Kindle, but for writing. And this is literally my digital brain. I like to write things down as far as important things, to-do list. I also have them in my computer. But, basically everything, every thought I've had over the last 6 years since I started using these is in this right now. So, if you think of that traditional, wrong one. So shout out to those guys. They hooked me up this past winter when I was at my worst and I was really sick. One morning, like a crack just developed down the screen of this thing. And this is a really small company in Norway or something. And they said, sorry, that we consider that accidental damage. And I was like, listen, y'all, I really rely on your product to keep my ADD brain, functioning properly. Please, just like, I've been using your products for a long time. I talk about them to all of my students. And so they actually had to meet as a whole company to discuss whether or not to give me a tablet as a warranty. And they did. And I told them thank you so much, and I would forever sing their praises. And another reason why I really like these guys, unlike other companies, they only come out with a new version of this thing once every 4 or 5 years, the way the iPhone was meant to be. And the only way you can get on the internet with it is it connects to your Google Drive. So back to the baseline. So let me really quickly draw up something here. So my father would draw something like this. And I even know I have this in here already somewhere, but oh well. And, I'm just really quickly going to do a rough kind of baseline here. So he would say, and those of you who sit in the woods notice this, that right around blue light, there is this huge spike in bird noise and animal movement and activity most of the time. And then around the middle of the day, either if it's cold or if it's hot, the animals will tend to lay low, especially in the summer if it's hot. And then, I'm not even going to show this. I'll actually try to pin a graphic to the stream directly. But, it's your basic, chart or candlestick chart. So, right at blue light, there's a lot of noise and activity. And then right it starts to get hot, siesta time. And then right a couple hours before sunset, there's that other spike in activity. So I can now, I now recognize the fact that just like everything has a sense of presence, as my father would teach, everything, every place, every business, everything has its own baseline. And I now have the capability of going out into nature, and instead of just reading that one-dimensional graph in my brain, I can twist it sideways and separate it out into as many layers as I want, depending on what question I'm asking. And wherever the movement is, that's where what I'm looking for is going to be. And once again, I do not teach something unless I have proven it to be effective 100% of the time. And that's part of the reason, for this whole podcast here, this live stream weekly, is so I can, start to talk about some of these things, and therefore, get a handle on how I can eventually weave them into, what I'm teaching. But yeah, I have another analogy I use. I hope I'm using that word right. It's, like the difference between looking at a picture and being able to just climb right in and be there. And a lot of these gifts started to be handed to me in May of 2024 when I had my first vision that I was literally working myself to death, and that if I didn't put self-care first, there was no point to all the struggles that I went through already up to that point, and all the struggle that I would continue to go through if I killed myself with work. And so I started to take a little bit better care of myself. And then I went to Alaska that year and had some incredibly transcendental visions and experiences there. Being alone for 7 days, 55 miles from the nearest anything, and just being in some of the purest wilderness, there is. I got given other gifts and shown other things. For instance, if you're familiar with the author Michael Pollan, he written many books, Omnivore's Dilemma, but years ago he and another woman penned a paper about how pretty much all of nature, in a subsurface level and above ground a little bit, is connected by this mycelial network that goes across the tree roots and into the plants. And they found cases where a healthy mature tree in times of drought or times of stress would actually would cut off its own flow of nutrition from the soil and moisture and give it to the trees around it and die, sacrifice its life so that the trees around it could live. Ironically, as we move into the age of quantum computing, the first quantum computer models that they're building and working with are based off that mycelial network. So one of the things I'll encourage you to do, and one of the reasons why is it's difficult for me to put words to some of this stuff, is because we all view things in our mind's eye differently. I was blessed with a very photographic memory and a really awesome kinesthetic memory. So another exercise I have or I ask people to do, is the next time you're out on a walk, just simply stop wherever you're at and take your 10 fingertips like this and just stick them into the soil, a little bit past your fingernail if you can. And then imagine, I always envision little tendrils coming out of my fingers and literally plugging into the nature net. And when I do this, a sine wave appears in my heads-up display, and we'll call it. And I can ask questions of that sine wave, where is the closest water source? Where is the best branch for me to make a bow drill kit out of? Where is a good hunting area? And that one so far, I get about 90% success rate with. It doesn't work as good with snow. You need to be able to actually get your fingers in the soil. And another thing I will tell you is that it's a much more vibrant experience in the summer than it is the winter, um, because everything is green and growing, and especially spring leading into summer. Whereas I just came from the Pacific Northwest rainforest where all year long it's green, um, but it's raining and a bit cold. When I do that exercise there versus here, the overall amount of like life energy that powers that sine wave that I talk about is much brighter than, say, if I were to go outside right now and dig down and stick my 10 fingers in. Yeah, with that, let's take just a quick whatchamacallit, few second break. I just want to go blow my nose. Sorry to be weird about it. So yeah, and if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, but I'll be right back. Okay, thank you. I hit mute. So thank you for giving me that short break. I just had to blow my nose. But what I was saying is, one other thing I will be announcing in my upcoming blog post, is another very special major collaboration for me with somebody in the outdoor skills world who's a publisher, has a school of his own, had reached out to me and asked me to become a visiting online instructor. So I designed a 4-part, 2 hours per session, so 8 hours in total, class that will be, run through his website. And I'm not going to say any names yet. because we still have a few more things to finalize. But know that that's going to be pretty awesome. And then once I have the dates for that, then I will start. That's what I've been waiting for, to get an answer on that before I started adding my pay what you will classes. Or actually now it is, I have to change to something different, because you have to pay at least $1, since I am not a nonprofit organization. So yeah, so with my online classes, all I ask is that pay whatever you can afford to pay, and not have to do without in some other area of your life. Partially because the wisdom and knowledge I have belongs to all of us. It's our shared human history. Part of it is because with platforms like Zoom or YouTube here, it doesn't matter if I have one person or 1,000. I don't have to get any more bow drill stuff ready. I don't have to buy any extra food. So yeah, but in the classes, this time, the last seasons, I got part way through and found out some news that I'm still dealing with, that kind of brought me to my knees until I literally got here and remembered why I do what I do. Yeah, I accidentally, when I got up, I muted the microphone so you wouldn't hear me blow my nose, and then I forgot to hit it back on. But yeah, so I'm going to start off with 2 classes, but like I said, I had to I wanted to, since he reached out, I wanted to get that up on the schedule first. And then also, as I mentioned, the in-person class, and as the weather warms, and I'm on this beautiful property in Wisconsin, and there are many other beautiful properties around here I can use down into other areas of the Midwest, I am going to be hosting a series of in-person classes. Because as much as I love online teaching, I'm ready to be and teach people as a group again, because there's so much magic in that. That's the one kind of unspoken magic thing about tracker school in its heyday, when you have 150 people from all over the world. You're in the great equalizer, nature, and people who in the real world would never act or interact with each other suddenly come together and are talking and laughing, and everyone's equal. So you still get some of that with online teaching, but it's not the same. So that schedule I will probably release, I'm thinking February. I still have a few people I have to talk to about locations, but I think one of the locations is going to be here where I live, which is about 40 minutes west of the Twin Cities. And maybe as far down. I would love to go teach some classes at one of my most favorite places on the planet, the Sun Foundation, outside of Peoria, Illinois. It's one of the most beautiful properties I've ever been blessed to teach and live on. And I'm also always too available to come to you and your friend group to teach a private class. And every class that I teach that's in person will have a sliding scale associated with it, because when it comes to me physically coming to an area to teach a class, or even setting up one here, there are costs incurred, like food and things like that. So I always try to offer a reasonable low number, and then reasonable high number, just so that as many people can have an opportunity as possible. But with these sessions and the ones coming up on my website, as I said, uh, in my struggle to learn a whole new skill set, that being of business, I wanted to take so many of these online classes I found, but I never could afford them. And I don't want anybody to come upon anything on my website and say, man, I would love to take that class, but I just can't afford it. No, not going to happen on my watch. And another announcement. So I've been talking for a while about how I'm going to open up a second area to my website. And that is going to be kind of the members area. It's going to be a free sign up. And in that area, you will find things like my reading library, links to podcasts I've been interviewed for, links to articles I've written for other publications. Really importantly, there's going to be a list of organizations in this country and abroad that I know 100% without a doubt you will get the best education possible if you live in those areas. So anybody on that list would be somebody my own father would approve of. And then I'm going to, as the weather warms up a little bit and I train my my friend's 3-year-old son how to be a camera boy this summer or this spring, maybe even sooner. I'm going to start to record many of the webinars that I've been running for years as mini master classes. And whereas in the 2-hour style, I was only ever able to talk about something or a technique or a shelter, whereas in these mini masterclass versions that'll be pre-recorded, I'll actually show you. So a 2-hour class, 1 2-hour session will end up being more like 3 to 4 hours. And those will be available for purchase and download for a very small price. I thought about making that second side of my website have a membership fee, but that didn't feel right. But yeah, if you want to download really awesome little mini classes on things, that's gonna be cool. There was one other thing that I was going to mention. My goodness, can't believe I fill my note. The membered area and yeah. So as far as the format for this show goes, part of it is me bouncing material off of y'all that I've arrived at over these last few years, combined with the 26 years of teaching experience and my own lifetime of practical experience, while also being able to draw on my father's body of work, as well as Stalking Wolves. It's helping me put words to teachings that were passed on to me without any. In fact, that was one of the hardest things for me when I first started teaching as an adult with my father, was so much of how I learned the skills wasn't like you did, or if you ever went to tracker school where you sat on those hard benches and you took notes all day and it was lecture, workshop. I just was a little monkey in the rafters listening, and then I would just duplicate what I saw my father doing or what the adults were doing. So a lot of my major breakthroughs, came without, just by sheer dirt time alone. So it was really hard when I first started teaching. I remember I got up and I had like pages of notes and they confused me. And then I tried just doing an outline thing, and that now I just don't even teach with notes anymore. And then I also am hoping to line up my first ever interview interview episode, which I'm hoping will either be next week or maybe the week after. So stay tuned for that. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a T3 live stream without a skill or two from time to time. And being that I have 6 deer legs that I need to remove the sinew from, that is a perfect thing that I can teach in a really short period of time on how to get the sinew off of a deer's leg to be thanks, Deb. I'm going to teach you how to skin the deer's leg so you can get what is essentially their Achilles tendon, and then dry that out, and then how you can then take that and turn it into some of the strongest rope there is, as long as it doesn't get wet. It's great for sewing, it's great for bowstrings, and the best part is when you use it to attach arrowheads to an arrow, you wet it in your mouth or in a small dish of water, and as you wrap it, it creates its own natural binding hide glue that shrinks as it dries and really keeps that arrowhead snug in place, which is crucial for perfect arrow flight. So yeah, we'll do one of those, and being that we just got a decent amount of snow around here, it's supposed to be 40 degrees in a couple days, which is amazing. So I think I'm going to try to do like a mini snow shelter video. And then another thing I'm going to do is a new playlist will show up in my YouTube feed. It's going to be titled, Well, What Now? So that is going to be based on finding myself in an emergency, situation in the wilderness, wherever I happen to be at that moment in space and time. So, okay, let's say, like right now, if it's -3 out right now, if I all of a sudden found myself stuck outside right now, I definitely wouldn't do well dressed like I am now. If I had my weather wool anorak on and my weather wool poncho and my weather wool pants, I could snug down. In fact, one of the last thing I'll announce is, I've been a weather wool ambassador for 12 years now, and I'm going to attempt to, and I did this in the Pacific Northwest, where I made a pile of debris, and I had on my jacket and my poncho and my wool pants, long underwear, of course, wool socks, and my Steger mucklucks. And I just slept in the rain right around 39 to 42 degrees and slept perfectly well. I woke up. The rain had barely penetrated the poncho and what parts of my pants were exposed. So here, what I'm going to do is, once we have this lull in weather, I'm going to make myself a little raised bed of shredded bark and slats, and then I'm going to duplicate that same thing, but whenever the next snowstorm is, and I'm going to record it as a time lapse. So I got a couple things I got to figure out. I got to figure out how to position my camera to where it stays warm the whole time and has charge running to it, so it can take potentially a 4 to 6 8-hour time lapse. But yeah, I'm that confident. And one thing that just blows my mind, I thought I was going to come to Wisconsin and every outdoor store was just going to be wool galore. Nope. In the colder parts of the world, everyone has moved to battery operated clothing now. I am not kidding. Literally battery operated clothing. They have charging packs, and I still haven't found a decent set of wool long underwear anywhere, so I'm gonna have to order some. And it's just so funny, and because honestly, one of the reasons wool is epic is that it retains a lot of its insulating capabilities even when it's wet. But here, where it's just freezing all the time, you don't have to worry too much about moisture. That's why coats like this old beat up North Face jacket I got can be really good insulating layers. And I will wear some synthetic layers in between my wool. Yeah. So with that, I want to thank all who tuned in tonight for this, what was almost an episode that never was. Next week, hopefully, I'll have more information for you and about the two classes that are going to be happening, the one online through somebody else's organization and the one in the Black Hills of South Dakota around the weekend of April 10th. But maybe we'll get an interview next week. So it all really depends on weather, stuff like that, and people's schedule. And I may even sometimes pre-record an interview if that's the only way I can get somebody, and then just play it for you with a live introduction, of course. But thank you all so much for being here tonight. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay warm. One of the things I loved is that the other night when the power was out in here and it was -8 out, and it as I was falling asleep, I looked at the thermometer. It was 22 degrees in my bedroom, and I was perfectly fine because, my father taught me to always be prepared for anything. So, I was prepared. Now, electronics and things like that, you throw them in the mix, it just makes things a little bit more difficult. Yesterday, when we finally got the heat on, about 10:30, it took until I think 4:30 before my computer would warmed up enough to actually take a charge to be able to turn on. So I literally sat here yesterday freaking out, thinking my computer was broken. But yeah, it just needed to warm up, because when I came out into the room that morning, just as the heat came and the lights came back on, this thermometer, I think it read, it was 26 or 24 degrees right here. All right, everybody. Until next week, stay happy, stay healthy, stay aware, stay awake, stay alive. Continue to spread love and peace and joy and purpose beyond yourself every moment of your day. And I promise you that it will not be a life wasted. In fact, I love the fact that after everything I've been through in my whole life, but especially these last few years, I still have the ability to go out in public, or if I talk to somebody on the phone, to be a caretaker, to truly hear them and listen to them and offer as best counsel as I can. Because my goal as a caretaker is everyone, everything, every place I am coming to contact with should be better after I part than it was when I got there, or when I came into contact with them. So, what's up, Michael? Give me a call later. All right, everybody. I will see you next week, and of course I'll be posting videos and stuff throughout the week. So, love y'all. Bye.